Hey, you guys, we are back for a pop-up Ask the Advocate. I know you guys had a fantastic Thanksgiving break. You were nice to all of your relatives. Were you nice to all of your relatives? I'm sure you were. Did you help with cleaning up all of the dishes? I know that I didn't. Thank God for paper plates and eating out of big square aluminum foils. Did you guys eat out of big square aluminum foils for Thanksgiving? Remember, like in the olden days, you had to put everything on fancy plates, but then you can't touch the plates because that's great grandma's plate. Yeah. So, hey, hi, your dyslexia tutor. You guys, if you don't follow her, you should. She is ridiculously smart and actually helps kids read. It's amazing. So, we're going to talk about tonight because you guys all had some feelings because I happened to say the question was, can a student, well, actually, the actual question was, if a student's services are being denied, can an administrator fail the student? And so I said, and I stand by it, because I'm like impervious. I don't move off of things that have been my experience for 26 years. So let's kind of unpack, can your IEP student fail? So when I get a client, and I get hundreds of them all the time, their paperwork is a train wreck. And while I realize there's a few unicorns out there in the world that implement the entire IEP with fidelity, that is fantastic. That's not my experience. And I don't run an ad. I don't need to run an ad. But when I tell you I have paperwork from New Hampshire to San Diego, from Seattle to Atlanta, and I have no idea what it even means. I have no idea what it means. So when I hear that, the entire IEP was implemented with fidelity, I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because we haven't invested in our staff members. We haven't invested in teachers. We haven't invested in special education teachers. We haven't invested in instructional professionals or related service providers or paras. And let's talk about the IEP being implemented with fidelity. First of all, we all know very few people get the entire IEP. A few people get the teacher bundle. And the teacher bundle is a bunch of shenanigans, right? We don't give them the whole thing. The specials teachers, let's just lean into this. No specials teachers ever saw your kid's IEP. Say it with me. None. Nope. PE teacher doesn't know that he needs a word wall. It's really weird. PE teacher, we're not sitting close to the teacher. So, and 25% of my clients are school-based members. I'm not guessing this. I know this. But yes, I believe that if you implemented the IEP with fidelity and gave them the supports and services, of course they could fail. But what the question was talking about is we have administrators fail, and it's based on bias, right? Bias is a really nice word for discrimination. And we all have them. I have them, right? If I was outside and somebody walked up and they weighed 1,000 pounds and they were walking towards me, I would have a list of biases that go down my brain of how that person got to that situation. So, of course, we all have biases, right? So an IEP is to be implemented with fidelity, which means first we would have to be trained in the implementation of that. I can't find teachers who collect IEP data. I can't find school districts that provide their teachers with raw data collection sheets. I don't find school districts that provide their teachers blank accommodations logs. So you tell me where I'm wrong. But when a child is not successful, there are certainly adjustments we can make. And yeah, certainly if a child refuses services, that's a given, right? That's a given. I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about that. But when I get kiddos opening packets, the first thing I always do is make sure they have right testing. It's not my experience that kids in special ed have the right testing. They don't, right? We give them that basic, right? We gave them the DAISY. Who doesn't love the DAISY testing? They don't ever have without representation. It's very rare that I would find a student that had appropriate related service testing, right? And related services are a game changer. And so we haven't, taught teachers how to collect data. We don't even know what that means. Some are way easy on our kiddos, but I heard somebody say IEP is not IE me. I don't even know what that means. Children with disabilities before 1975 weren't allowed to come to the building. So this great gift that we have of being special ed students, I don't know about that. Number two, respectfully, I don't care about your teacher shortage. I don't. Why? Same teacher shortage is here was in 1997 when my son started. So we've always had a reason why special ed students weren't getting their services. The difference is is every other kid can go out and acquire information. Special ed students, you're not going to call me and go, hey, no Mountain Dew today. I'm drinking this stuff. Isn't that terrible? The problem with special education students is, if I was a general ed student, right? So if I didn't learn English 1, I could have taken Texas Tech Online and got English 1, right? Other students can go and acquire that information. So special ed students, nobody's going to call them when they're 24 and go, listen, Karen, we dropped the ball. We didn't give your kids special ed services. And actually the truth is, we just sent in a para the whole time and we pretended that was special education. Here's what I do know, and I don't know a lot. In 2016, a national publication of people in prison, say it with me, prison, 29% of them self-reported they were in special ed. So don't tell me there's not a problem, and don't tell me to give people a pass. I'm not in the giving people a pass business. If you are, enjoy that. I don't even know what that means. This is about a child who's not receiving a service. Would you give me a pass if I missed his insulin? Like if he's supposed to have insulin 5 times a day, 5 times, would it be okay if we didn't do that? So, we are supposed to provide services. It's a federal requirement. We have to stop shifting the blame of why. We didn't do it because we don't value these kids in the same way we value general ed kids. That's just the truth. I'm happy to say that, right? I didn't know anything about special education until I had a child with a disability. I didn't know that there were kids with disabilities. Certainly didn't know how they were served. I had the same biases. And so, yes, Whitney's trying to join. Yes, Whitney, join us. How do I don't see you joining, Whitney. Am I supposed to do something fancy? I don't know. Whitney is going to join us because she is young and smart and has information. So, these kiddos that are a lot of work, have federal and state funding. And we had a great duo. I don't remember who did it, but there is money in special education. I teach for the American Printing House for the Blind. There's grant money to be gotten, but we don't have a priority for kids with disabilities, and it's based on where the money's going. Yes, Whitney has to go live first before you can join. Yeah, so Whitney, you go live, and then we join, and then our greatness meets in the middle. Yeah, so of course there are exceptions. I'm not saying that kids get a pass, but I just had just prep for an IEP meeting that I'm having, and the student had all 70s because he was misbehaving. What? Well, if he's misbehaving, she goes, I gave him all 70s on his IEPs. Well, that's not how this works, right? So the parents said they weren't happy with it. So guess what? The next day he had all 95s. We're not asking for a lie. We're asking for the real thing. Parents are grown. They want the truth to be able to make educated and informed decisions. And, but for kids that are getting failing grades, because we didn't implement what we were supposed to, we didn't make adjustments. When the IEP doesn't work, we make adjustments functionally, behaviorally, communicative, social, emotional. And we don't do that. We don't do that well. We don't do that unless there's a requirement. School-based members aren't allowed to say anything because God forbid that they would say anything, because two things happen to school-based members when they go to admin. I know. They are prepped and hushed. So, yes, of course there's outliers. Of course there's kids that deny their accommodations. I'm not saying that. But I see this all the time where you give kids failing grades in special ed, and it's not okay. There was a creator on here, I can't remember who, but she said, I think she was from England, and she said the percentage of kids in prison or adults in prison that have dyslexia or reading disability is over 80%. So how are we okay with that? Like, how do we give ourselves a pass for that? I don't know, right? I just don't know. So, I do know that there's amazing people in special education, and there's amazing people doing a great job. But I also know that there are people that look parents in the face and say they delivered special education, and it was just her in the room. And I love paras, but they're not implementing special education because they're paras. I love paras, but we have paraded the charade long enough. I'm not going to be quiet about it. I'm happy to have any sort of conversation about it. But the truth is, a student with a disability has the same right to equal access to an education, and equal inclusion. So access and inclusion are two different things that we're running a little bit behind on. But yeah. So, oh yes, please send me the picture of the raw data collection sheets. So, yeah, if you are a SPED para, Any advice? My advice, chaotically underscore me. I love that. You guys are so, I don't even know how to spell chaotically. Does it have a K? But that's free. I'll be here all night. If you should see the people behind me shaking their head, right? So, I'm going to let Dyslexia, I'm going to invite her. These little buttons. Hi, it's your favorite person's kid. Hi, Travis Scott, 2022. Shouldn't you be doing the dishes right now, Travis? Because I'm pretty sure they are not completed. But yeah, I'm happy to have the conversation. I know that we have, we're trying to get Whitney to jump on. I'm going to get, I think Bonnie wanted to jump on and talk about what it looks like for teachers. Because we love teachers. Like, I love teachers. Like, people take our children for the day. Like, they are angels from heaven. I love teachers, right? So, anyway, a couple of questions while we're waiting for Bonnie to jump on. Yeah, Alicia?
Can you just let Whitney, I know you can hear me, you just need to hit the multi-guest thing at the bottom to join her.
Oh, there she is in the little corner. She's coming up as a little stamp. There's a thing of a deal.
Of a deal. Hold on, I gotta figure out what I'm doing.
Okay, so Sarah, I'm going to have you jump back off because I've messed it up. Can you do that? Can I?
I think so.
I'm so sorry.
Get off and come back. No problems.
Yeah, but I love the tree. Thank you for teaching kids to read in St. Louis.
I think so.
I'm so sorry. Okay, the multi-deal. So the choices are settings, live intro, hear your voice. Oh, nobody wants to do that. Tools. Oh, guest. Two guests. Is that it?
Yeah, hit the multi-guest and then it's
accept.
Whitney's right there.
Look at us, Whitney. We're friends. I think. And I have to get rid of Sarah, right?
Yeah, get rid of Sarah.
Sarah, it's me. It's not you. How do I get rid of Sarah? Huh? Disconnect. Yes. Okay, hold on. I think I got it, Whitney. There's Whitney. Oh, wait.
Whitney.
Where'd she go? She's back.
You got it. You're good.
Is there a way to make it?
Sorry.
I don't know how to make. Sorry, Whitney. I went to school on a covered wagon. We didn't have electricity.
I was struggling.
Yes. Well, thanks for jumping on. Tell us where you're at. I think you're in the Houston area, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And what fancy district?
I'm not going to disclose the district, just, for privacy and all that. But I've worked in several large districts in the area.
Yeah. So tell us what you wanted to share about my video.
Well, I guess, and that's what I was not trying to be nasty or ugly. I was just.
You were lovely on your stitch. You were just lovely.
Thank you. I guess my major point, like where I'm coming from, is like, students, behavior is my primary background. So when the refusal to do things is there and you've been given multiple opportunities, accommodations have been in place, we've tried interventions, the effectiveness of specific or certain interventions, we've had staffings, we've had parent meetings and all of those things. And I've had parents on both sides of it say, yeah, my kid should fail. Or I've had parents say, what else can I do to help? And then, some of us have experienced the no contact from parent, and again, like we're always going to give them the opportunity to do what's best for them. And I also definitely understand your point of adjusting the IEP as necessary. But I personally do believe that students that receive services can fail if the IEP, but I do agree with you as well. If the IEP is being implemented with fidelity and the teacher, gen ed or sped, is doing what they need to do, the chances of them failing are very slim.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think that the parents should always, be notified of good or poor progress and mastery toward those goals.
Right. And so kind of let's unpack that for a little bit. So I absolutely agree 100% with what you were saying. That wasn't what I was talking about, right? And Whitney, you're a unicorn. Thank you for doing what you do and serving kiddos. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people like literally failing a child because their processing speeds in the 7th percentile, right? And you gave them, I don't know, Romeo and Juliet, right? Like not fully thinking about the child's unique circumstances, right? And if we've not captured that, if we've not pulled that forward in I always say the PLAF should be 3 Ps, like my hair: pristine, prescriptive, and puffy.
I agree.
When I tell you do 500 IEP meetings a year. I do 500 IEP meetings a year.
Well,
And the paperwork's a train wreck. It just is a train wreck.
I will agree with you there, because the
Yeah,
PLAF is like my baby,
yeah,
because I mean, and I know that you haven't taught, and I'm not discounting that at all.
I have not taught.
When you receive that crummy PLAF,
Yeah,
or you receive the PLAF that it's like, is this the right kid? Like, because they don't
yeah,
match. And
yeah,
we all know and understand that there's a lot of copy paste, which
yeah,
I'm not an advocate for that, obviously. But I
right,
mean, the PLAF is really essentially the most important, and obviously it drives the goals. But without that good PLAF, you're struggling. And being from transitioning from the teacher side of things to the
yeah,
administrative side of things, I see things with a different lens now. But kind
yeah.
of like you were saying, like, there are people that are very basically, they don't take the accountability to do what is legally expected of them.
Right. And I think, I mean, you can appreciate, because I don't want to say from the bottom to the top, but you've moved up in your career quickly. But I mean, where is, the assumption is there's one sheriff at a school, that's the principal, whether we like it or not, right? And for me, as somebody that represents people in due process and all the way through federal filings with the U.S. Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, it should be the campus's responsibility to hand off the duties and responsibilities to the teachers. We just don't do that. I have paras that I represent. I have an assistant director right now that I'm represent. Why I have two principals. I mean, like I don't run an ad. I'm not going, call me, let's just dig through your IP. So if they're on that level, if Mrs. Smith is the principal of Elm Elementary School, she should be going on the first day of school. Hey, for all kiddos that have teachers that have an IEP or 504, here are your blank accommodation sheets. But that doesn't happen, right? And to expect, Christina and Bonnie and Alicia, the general ed teachers or special ed teachers, to go into EastEd or ESTAR or Success Ed, and can we agree that Ed was never successful? And to find where that document is, like, that's not what they were trained to do. And I find a huge disconnect in the onus and responsibility from SPED at the admin level or the campus level to serve. They're supposed to serve the teachers, right? They're supposed to support. I shouldn't have to go
Right.
on teachers pay teachers and pay $11 to find a blank data collection sheet. And they do. It's terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely not. And when I did work in a larger district in Houston, I mean, we used the same data collection forms across the district. Like that, it was a non-negotiable, just because when students would move from, kids move around, and the district is so large. So if you go from this high school to this high school, the expectations and the data collection, and especially like when I worked in the behavior unit, all of them were the same, just so it wasn't a disconnect for the student. But I do agree with you, because people have asked, what does your data collection look like? So I actually was going to make a TikTok about that, because it depends on what data you're collecting. And unfortunately, I've had to make my own or adjust or adapt them, because a blank data collection form does not serve every student.
No.
Especially when it's trials versus opportunities, or, attempts, or whatever it is that you're saying. So,
And I think something else that you kind of mentioned in your Zoom, and I never sat, obviously I'm not an educator, because I like my children to get on the bus and leave my house. And God bless teachers. I, I think the percentage is up above 60 to 70% of parents that never attend IEP meetings. And I have a whole training on what that looks like. I actually go in and I train school districts on professional development, and I let them generously have it. I mean, we've made IEP meetings really, I mean, I've been sitting in them since 1997. They're not enjoyable for the parent, as the parent, right? Before, as an advocate, you come in last, you get the bad seat, right? There's another advocate, somebody in the Great Houston, and I said, this chair is broken. And they're like, oh, that's for the other advocate, right? And so I always say, when I train a school district, it's sort of like if Whitney came to my house for Thanksgiving, I wouldn't go, oh, here's a plate, go sit on the front lawn. I would give you the choice of good seats. And it's just, we've got to work on making it feel collaborative.
I completely agree with you on that too. So, I mean, I graduated from Texas A&M, and their special ed program is phenomenal. I'm biased, but yes, it's phenomenal. But I will tell you, I mean, that's why I think that parent contact is so important, and being open and honest. Like, and I'm going to call you for the good things, and I'm going to call you for the not so good things. And sometimes it
Yeah.
is a reach.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a reach, or it feels like a reach.
Yeah.
But I mean, and I will never forget, I had a mom crying in an ARD one time, and I'm like, what's wrong? And she was like, I've just never had one go so smooth. And because I thought that she was upset with me, and I was like, you know everything. I call you every day. And she was like, I've just never had anything. I'm always told what my child cannot do versus what he
Right.
can. So I do
Right.
agree with you. I think there needs to be the shift in the mindset. It's what are we able to do versus what we cannot do.
Right. And I think that, I mean, and I sit on the board of Texas A&M University Center for Disabilities and Development. And the thing is there's just so much knowledge, but nobody has it. There are easy ways to do things. But if you want to make somebody mad, make a TikTok today and say, by the way, every teacher tomorrow that has a kid with a 504 IEP has to document their accommodations under federal law. They will all tell you
It's
how
not their job.
wrong. Well, they'll tell you you're wrong. Then they'll tell you, prove it. Well, I actually don't have to prove it. I have over 67 federal cases open. So it's so fortunately, that's a word. It's unfortunately, I just said it again, maybe that is a word. Maybe we'll put that on the STAR test. It's unfortunate that we have not cared enough about our own employees as school districts to serve them. That's not a me issue. That's not a parent issue. And there's money. It's about allocation. And the teachers that I meet love kiddos. They want to learn, right? But they're spending their money on my trainings, online trainings, teachers pay teachers, and they're just trying so hard, right? And people are stunned when we leave a meeting. They're like, oh, like they're so like they're already beat up having a child with a disability, right? And they're just and I would love to be in meetings with somebody like you that was collaborative and oh my gosh, this is what I say, the glow and the grow, right? Instead of here's the 72 times a day that he poked you in the eye. I'm like, you know what? I think we should bring eye poking back. I'm a big fan of eye poking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I understand from what I do how important data is, but sometimes we give it so clinically. It's like, oh yeah, your kid was unsuccessful Thursday, Friday, and we just read it off, right? Especially I love behavior kiddos. I invented the color change. In 9 weeks, he had, and I think we get so. Oh, did I lose her? Did she leave her little stamp? I want to re-invite her back. It wasn't me, was it?
I think she lost this.
Okay. She didn't lose that loving feeling, did she?
No.
That's not even possible. Okay.
You want to answer some questions?
Yes. Answer some questions.
How do you get a parent to buy into their student's education?
So that's a really good, how do I get the parent to buy into their education? I think it's different. I think, how do I get the parent to partner with the school? Because schools don't often make the parents feel welcome. It's a little condescending. As somebody that's struggled with their weight their whole life, the last thing I want to do when I go to the doctor's office is weigh, right? And I'm grown-ish. I'm 57.1. I still don't want to weigh, and I have feelings about it, right? And nobody even cares anymore, right? So I have not found that to be welcoming, and so I can't really buy into my child's education until I buy into that you and I have the same goal, and that is that we're going to figure out what are his strengths, what are his deficits, so I can write goals around them and work around that. And so there are going to be parents for a number of reasons that don't attend IEP meetings. There are parents that will get fired if they take a day off from work. I think you guys don't necessarily understand that. And we're asking them to come to our place of business. We're asking the parent to come to, you're not having to take a day off of work to go to an IEP meeting. And if they don't finish, then we have to reconvene. So not too many people can just take days off of work to go to IEP meetings. And, we talk over their heads in all of our IEP lingo, and it's really hard for them to understand. And we say stuff like this. You have any questions? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? No. Do you have any questions? Right? Or we start the meeting, we didn't give them a draft, and we just say, Mr. Smith, do you have any concerns? No. Parent had no concerns at this time. Well, they're in a totally different arena. So, we got to start with every kid's a general ed kid, and this kid just needs a little more help than the other kids.
They're saying that your multi-guest thing went away. I don't see it on my end either, but I don't know what your end looks like to help.
My end looks fantastic. Thank you for asking. Thank you. I'll be here all night. I'm happy to multi-desk again. It just says, I would like to multi-desk again. Bonnie, do you see my multi-guest thing? Is it letting you be guestful? Can you invite me? Oh my gosh. Interactive.
Look, there's Whitney. Click on her. See if it'll let you invite her.
She went away. Can I click on her? Hi. I just sent a message. Hi. Listen, you guys, I'm tools.
Oh, look, you said hi.
Yeah, I said hi without turning it off.
Someone's asking what an IEP is.
An IEP is an individualized education program. It's a program of supports for a child with an identified educational disability. I don't know. I'm on the Wi-Fi and the everything. It just says plus guest. It doesn't say anything. I'm sorry.
It says plus guest?
No, it doesn't have any. It says plus. Let's do co-host. Okay, where's invite, go live. So Whitney would still have to be live. Is she still live?
No, I don't. Whitney's live on her own page. She's watching your live.
Oh, so Whitney, if you go live and then ask to join my live, then we would be dual. I do know that. What should I do to get started? All right, so you guys ask some questions while we're figuring it out. Christina, you're on deck.
Oh, yes. Question. Yes.
So, question. I had two questions actually back to back from probably from a teacher. One, what if you feel like you're following the IEP? And then what if the student's refusing the services?
Well, if the student refuses the services, then you just document that, right? If a student won't put their glasses on. So, so, I mean, we don't wrestle them to the ground and say, receive my frequent breaks, right? So you just document that. And obviously, if they're refusing it, then that would rise to the level at some period of time to go back to the table and remove that accommodation. Is something we agreed upon the student needs to be successful. If they're denying it, then you would remove it. Did the verdict for Rusty's due process case come back in? Yes, and guess what? We won. Rusty Webb won against Clear Creek Independent School District. So the short version is, the hearing officer said that agreed that the vision services for CCISD, the vision department, need to have a, in parentheses, complete overhaul. So there's that. So big thank you to attorneys Mark Whitburn and Sean Pevsner. They are the best firm that I work with. They are amazing. Yep, but we won. Rusty won. Okay, so somebody... Okay, okay. Just waiting for somebody to be my guest.
So it looks like Whitney just chimed in. You guys need to be friends on TikTok in order to do a live.
Okay, well, can she come back just being guesty? I don't know.
I don't know why your multi-guest option got turned off.
I know.
I don't know.
It's beyond my pay grade.
If you're trying to reach us, you just reach out at admin@specialeducationacademy.com. Yeah. Okay. I don't follow that many people on the TikTok because I already spend so much time on it. You know, the 3 things I picked on TikTok were dogs, cooking, and cleaning. I know stuff about borax. I cannot even tell you. I'm just saying.
Are schools required to make up general education classroom time if the IEP student, for the IEP student, like compensatory time?
So we're required to make up any special ed time that benefits the student with a disability, right? So I'm very big on tracking that. The email is admin@specialeducationacademy.com. So when I go through the document, and these are a lot of my allegations, which end up being true, I mean, the student just tells me, nope, the pair is not here. Special ed teacher comes in late. Those are all minutes that have to be made up if you ask for compensatory time. Compensatory time is our minutes or time delivered to the student with a disability to return the student back to where they would have been had the IDEA violation not occurred.
Perfect.
I have a question.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Is reducing the class size a substitute for IEP pullout services?
You just like get rid of some of the children. You're like, you're out of here. what? No, it's not a thing. No. That sounds like wearing pantyhose all day. No. Raw data. Couldn't data points be entered into? Let me just answer that real quick. Yeah, of course, data is going to be entered into a digital platform, but the IEP progress report that I get that says he's done great is not the way somebody took the data originally, right? We wrote it down on something. So those are blank IEP data collection sheets that somebody populated with a pen. Nobody's walking around with a laptop all day. So those are the ones that I want to see, raw data collection sheets. Oh my gosh, look at it. Oh, look at me. This is so exciting. Hi, Bonnie.
That worked. Hey, Karen.
Yeah. Now so tell us about your great success as teacher.
Well, my great success is that I quit to become an advocate. I was a gen ed teacher for 10 years, and 4 or 5 of those as special ed. Can you hear me? I feel like it's
Yeah,
like
I can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, so I taught science, I taught special ed, and then just recently quit. So, but yeah, I to go along with this whole discussion, it was frowned upon more so than not to fail a special ed student from admin. I don't know if should say that, but as a gen ed teacher, as a sped teacher, a lot of times, we were not really allowed to fail
Right.
a sped kid.
And so kind of related to the video that I was talking about, I mean, it wasn't about, I don't want to give anybody a pass. In fact, just the opposite. I wish we went back to doing grades the way that we did in the 80s when most of you weren't born yet or even thought about. Like if I failed a class, I failed the class. So that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
I don't have a kid that fails. All my kids, they're all AB honor roll. I guess everybody is on the AB honor roll, right? Plus, we just retest and retest and retest and retest and retest. I have no idea if you know it or if we've just shoved it down your throat 15 times. So, but to give a child a failing grade, I don't have a problem with that when we've done our responsibility and our due diligence as it relates to special education. And so kind of when we're talking to Whitney and, she talked about raw data collection sheets and blank IEP data collection sheets. So at your school district as a teacher, as a special ed teacher, how did you get the blank IEP sheets?
Well, we didn't. We never got them. In my career, I worked for 3 different districts, and I never took data on any of that. It was never a directive. There was never any IEP goal progress monitoring. There was never training. Like at the beginning of the year, even as a first year teacher, no one came in and trained you on here's what an IEP is, here's how you implement it, here's what here's what you should be doing. So like I said, I worked for 3 different districts and not a single one of them trained me, even after getting my SPED certification, taking the test and doing all that, and then going into as an inclusion teacher and a co-teacher. There was never a training. It was just like, congratulations, you're certified. And there was never any raw data, anything. And I used eSped, I used Success Ed, and then there was one other program way back when, but there was never any training on that. Like no one came in from admin and said, here's what you're supposed to do every day for your students. So everything that I had to learn it myself. I had to go find the resources, find the information myself so that I knew I was doing what I was supposed to do, because it's a legal space. Like it's something I have to do for my kids, but there was never instruction on how to do it. So I think that's a huge disservice to teachers and new teachers, and
Absolutely.
they're the ones that are held to the fire. Like it's us in the trenches.
And I think that what happens for parents is I assume that when I take my car into the car place, the guy changing my tires, this isn't his first time to change tires. I would assume that, right? So when you tell a parent this is your child's special education teacher, we think that they are teachers that have training under IDEA, right? Had you ever been given a copy of the 115 pages of IDEA?
Nope.
Have you ever been to a school-based training for a 504? Behavior.
And I honestly don't even know if I knew what a 504 was until like the 2nd or 3rd year of teaching, and I didn't know the difference. Like no one tells you the difference of a 504 and an IEP. And no one tells you. It's just figure it out as you go. Like, just kind
Right. And so if you had a kiddo that you knew or a friend or whatever, since you're a teacher, right? Sort of like if you meet a doctor somewhere at a party, you're like, if this is going on, what do you think is wrong with me? So if you had a kiddo that was struggling, how did you refer them for special ed in your school district?
Well, that policy was never really given to us either. Like, we knew they were struggling. We knew, stuff was going on in the classroom, but it was never like, there was never any directive on what we do next. Like, there's kind of sort of like, we'll tell the principal or tell the counselor, and that was it. Like, it never went anywhere. And sometimes it would be like, we'll watch them. We'll just watch them for 6 weeks and see how.
Like with binoculars. What are you doing? We are watching this kiddo. So what's shocking to me is the foundation of special ed is child find, right? 300.111. And it says that school districts have a federal responsibility to ILE, identify, locate, and evaluate children with suspected disabilities in need of special education and related services. So please tell me that somewhere you had a child find training.
No, never. No. I didn't know what that was until I became, department head and high, everything I've ever trained on in special ed came from me seeking it out. It was never the district telling me this is what we need to do. It was always, okay, I'm a special ed teacher. Let me look on the Region Center website. What they're called, conferences or trainings can I look at to be a better teacher? It was never a go and do this because you're a special ed teacher. We're going to send you to this. It was me always asking, can I go to this? And sometimes you got told no, but for the most part, we were allowed to go, but it was never anybody telling us, or training us formally on any of the special ed stuff we were supposed to be doing.
Right. So I think this whole conversation about, it's not a conversation I'm having. You can watch my 8 million videos. I've never pitted parents against teachers. It's actually not about the teacher, and it's also not about the parent. It's about district policies and practices and the student with a disability. So we have this imaginary fight between two girlfriends, and it's really about the married couple, right? So the federal agreement is between the individual with a disability and the LEA representative, which is the principal. And I love principals. I don't find them to often have a lot of knowledge about special education. I just don't. Lovely people. And so it just is, from all the teachers that I've met, and I've met 1 million teachers, I represent 1 million teachers, it is teachers spending all that money they make because they do it for the fame and the money. They're literally going out and they're buying one of my classes, or they're, buying a whatever class from NASET, the National Association of Special Education Teachers. You should join that, NASET, NASET.org. It's the best $95 you'll ever spend. And I have the ability to buy those classes, but those classes take hours and hours of your life, right? And we live in the great state of Texas, where we rank 50th in special education delivery services out of 50. Thank you, we're in last place. And yes, there's 1 million trainings on Region 13 and Region 11 and Region 4, but you got to pay for them, right? I took a standards-based IEP course, was going to take it at Region 4. It was 16 hours, and the book was $400. I'm like, what kind of book is it? Like a book made out of Pringles or chocolate? Like, what are you talking? And it was just how to write an IEP. So did somebody come in and train you on how to write an IEP goal? Never. Somebody come in and train you on how to write present levels?
Nope.
Somebody train you on how to write thank you notes for your Apple candle at Christmas? It's just, it's stunning to me, right? And so I think the blessing and the curse of COVID is we got to peek over the fence, right? And we got to see teachers who walk on water. And then we got to see teachers who are mad at myself, which doesn't matter, or people that speak out. And the truth is they're mad because they've been lied to. I didn't lie to them. I didn't say you don't have to do this, but somebody did. And then they said it's parents and advocates causing the problem. No, we're just asking for our legal rights. We just assumed you knew what they were because we assumed that your school district would have invested in you and trained you. And it's not okay. And we're not even to baseline yet. But if we expect for our teachers to be fully equipped, we have to invest in them and time and money, and not just a here's your hour back to school. Woo! Here's your lanyard. We'll see you at, homecoming and spring break. And it's not fair to teachers,
Right.
right?
And I've sat through 10 going back to school, welcome back to school, the 2 weeks of PD before the kids even get there. And there's never maybe 5 minutes of here's your new bundles, here's your new binder. But there's never, and I, as a department head, it was partially my job to kind of onboard first year teachers who were brand new
Yeah.
to the profession in my departments. And they didn't, they knew nothing about teaching. They were brand new. And so
Yeah.
there was never any training for them. Not a single day of special ed training on how to implement an IEP. A lot of them probably didn't even know what IEP was because they're
Or what's
brand
child
new. And so
find?
I wish somebody had done.
Yeah.
My first year, I wish someone had done that and continued to do that every year because things do change. But the beginning of the year is never about that. It's always about here's the new grade book or here's the new system we're using or whatever. But it rarely consisted of special ed ever.
Right. Well, we've got to do better. Special ed is, at least approximately about 20% of the population, 25 pediatricians will say, and we have to do better. So thank you for jumping on. Please jump on another time because you are so stinking smart. And we're gonna get you that teacher training if it's the last thing we do. I don't know how, but we're gonna get it done. Thanks for jumping on. All right, more questions, Christina? Got a question?
Bye, thank you.
Bye, honey. Okay, Christina can't hear me. Okay. Okay, sorry, Christina, you're being shoved out of the way. Christina, you're being shoved out of the way. Oh, there's a little delay. Okay.
Okay, I got it. So I have a few people that just jumped on, and so they're asking about if the student isn't doing, they're not turning it in and all that. Is that what you meant in your video? So you want to just go ahead?
No, of course not. If the student's not, that's totally different. That's totally different. I mean, I have students that pass that don't do anything. I'm not a fan of any of that. I'm all about, two things happen in a classroom, right? Instruction and production. I'm talking about, did we correctly support those students, right? And it's not my experience when I get kiddos that are struggling emotionally and academically and communicative that there's a benefit to giving them a failing grade. That we haven't looked at other supplementary aids and support. So we haven't looked at the least restrictive environment to maximize their education. That's what I'm talking about. But we implemented the IEP and they failed, doesn't really pass the sniff test with me, right? If we implement the IEP and they're failing, then we adjust the IEP. I'm not talking about refusal to attend. I'm not talking about kids that don't come to school. I'm not talking about any of that. But I have people that literally say, I implemented the IEP and he failed. Well, so our job as educators and special educators, if it's not working, that we go back to the table. I have kiddos that have goals that have mastered them in the first grading period and they just keep working on them. No, the IEP is a living, breathing document and we make adjustments as needed.
Amen. So I think people just missed that beginning part where it said when they're not getting their supports.
Yeah, the beginning of the question said when they're not getting their supports. Yeah, I mean, if Bob is 6'3" and he says no, then okay, then we document the no, right?
Awesome. Okay, then we have some more. Vintage Artist wants to know, where can parents get trained on the IEP process?
Sure. So, I mean, I'd recommend that you join the Academy. It's $47 a month. We train for 2 hours every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central. We have hundreds of hours of training archived on there with workbooks. We train on the law, on the actual law, not feelings or emotions or flipping out or how to bring the right crescent rolls to the next meeting to get which, but the federal law, the implications, and the state regulations and requirements.
Yes. Who does a test for a child with possible cognitive learning impairments? Christina, you're next.
I mean, it depends on, where it is in the United States. So a diagnostician certainly can provide that testing. In different states, they have different titles. At now LSSP, a licensed specialist in school psychology, certain LPCs, and certain social workers. But you certainly want to make sure that it's somebody that's certified to do that in your state. And then when you do a cognitive test, you ask for all 7 Gs. Oh, good for you, Andrea. That's good. She has a meeting for her kiddo. Yay.
So someone asked, what is the difference between a behavior IEP and an educational IEP?
So there isn't a behavior IEP. So the individualized education program is for the child with a disability. Those disability needs show up in a myriad of ways, right? Those educational needs could be behavior, academic, functional, social, emotional, communicative, any sort of thing. So we always say, what is the educational need? There might be behaviors based on the student's disability at school.
Okay. And then someone just asked as a follow-up to to the answer regarding cognitive testing, what are the 7 Gs?
Really, Christina? We're going to do that right now.
Apparently, we are going to do that.
We're going to do that right now, Christina. So the 7 Gs, let me just get them. They are.
Let's do that one.
Let me move my 1,700,000 pieces of paper, but I have them on the ready because I knew you were going to ask this. I had no idea you were going to ask this. We just finished our training on the 7 Gs, didn't we? So the 7 Gs are cognitive, they're brain skills, and I'm not going to be able to, yes I am. Am I? Yes, I'm going to find them if it's the thing that I did. So somebody's going to help me with that. So there is auditory processing, short-term or working memory, long-term memory, visual processing, fluid reasoning, processing speed, your crystallized intelligence. How many is that? Was that 7?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's it. Yeah. And so it's really important that you know those 7. We just finished a training. How many weeks was the training, you guys?
It was 8 weeks.
8 weeks, right? And so for a kiddo that has testing, you need to understand those brain skills and how they show up for a kiddo, because they're going to impact them whether they reach a level of an SLD, a specific learning disability, and you have to always be telling that to the committee.
Yeah.
So good follow-up for that is somebody often teachers don't all get this information.
Correct. Yes.
Why?
Because it's not a priority. I mean, I'm a lot of things. I'm obnoxiously transparent and I'm painfully honest. The truth is it's not a priority. Every 7th grade boy in America that plays UIL football gets a brand new jersey. I'm not good with math, but do the math. It is not our children with disabilities have not been a priority in education yet. They could be. It's just basic math.
Yes. Can somebody ask what is the difference between an IEP or a 504?
So a 504 is a waste of good paper. A 504 is a civil right plan. It was never intended, and I have a few kids that are on a 504 plan that are appropriate. When I say few, I mean less than a handful in 26 years. So the 504 is simply a civil right that says if you have a disability, you can't be discriminated and denied accommodations. That's it. That's all it says. An IEP is an individualized education program crafted by the IEP team to enable the student to make progress in light of their unique circumstances. So an IEP has services, support minutes, time, IEP goals that we're working on and tracking. It's identified specific skill deficits, and we're working on mitigating them by teaching a child with a disability strategies to overcome their disability. So it's egregious and offensive and disgusting that most of the kids in special ed in America that have an identified disability in school are on a 504. I am personally offended by that. It's offensive that over 3/4 of individuals that have a hearing loss or a vision loss or are deaf blind are on a 504. That's offensive.
Yes, I agree. Someone asked, where can they find all of these trainings?
In my heart. On the interweb. So they are at, the trainings are at specialeducationacademy.com, specialeducationacademy.com. So we have our weekly 2-hour special education, which is on Tuesday nights. Then we have 2-day intensives, 2-day in-person intensives, or you can take it online. And we also have a 10-week mastermind.
Yes. Well, and somebody, just another mom, asked, why
is that really her name? Just another mom?
Just another mom on TikTok.
I love that.
Why doesn't an IEP apply for behavior?
It does. An IEP applies for any educational need. I have kiddos that are ADHD, and all of their goals are about behavior. So it applies to any educational need that shows up at school, whether it's Braille, feeding, dressing, academics, functional needs, communication, emotional, any of that.
Yes. Cynthia, we did not see your question. Ask us again.
Ask us again, Cynthia. It's not me, Cynthia. It's these other people.
Oh, I see it. I found it. What happens when teachers are omitted from planning a child's IEP when public school systems have a... That was it. That's where it stopped. Cynthia, what's the rest of your question? In the meantime...
So maybe she's saying teachers are omitted because of staff shortage? Is that what she means?
From planning a child's IEP when public school systems have a... Oh, wait, no. Hold on.
Where is she?
On the other half of the question.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in and answer. How does IEP work in private schools? So private schools do not receive federal funds from IDEA. Private schools may receive federal funds, but not as it relates to special education. So if a student is receiving supports in private school, that's very gracious of them, but that's not what they're staffed for usually. Yes, a student can... I'm just going to jump in. A student can have an IEP for diabetes. A student can have an IEP for medical. A student can have an IEP for dyslexia. It's about the impact of the disability and how do we serve that.
Okay, so our question was, what happens when the teachers are omitted from planning a child's IEP when the public school systems have a predetermined IEP written?
So predetermination is, you being denied meaningful participation in the IEP process, which are your procedural rights. We have a very long training on the Academy about your procedural rights. If you don't know your rights, it's hard to invoke them, but you're allowed to have meaningful participation, and you can't be denied that by predetermination. Predetermination means we get to a meeting. You can have the whole thing typed out, but when I have questions about it, or different views, we don't ever change anything, right? So certainly the school is allowed to provide a full draft, but when we get to the table, we're supposed to legally collaborate to make sure that we come to agreement on those sections.
And the teacher should definitely be a part of that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Can a child be removed out of the district without them trying another class or school first? A school within the district first?
So when we look at LRE, the least restrictive environment, our job is to educate students with disabilities to the maximum extent possible with their non-disabled peers with strategies and supports. So the question before the committee is, have we exhausted all options to educate the student in general ed? Have we exhausted all options to educate the student in special ed? Have we exhausted all options to educate the student on this campus? Have we exhausted all options to educate the student at another place in the district? So it's called a continuum of services, and we have to walk through them. Often I see gen ed to self-contained because parents don't know there's other options and they've not been described the continuum of services.
I'm going to say this statement because it kind of feeds into the next person's question. But one person said, why does it feel like middle school is where IEPs go to die?
It is.
And then backing that up, Brittany said her 6th grader has an IEP and a BIP and is failing. Now what should she do?
Well, I would wonder, why are they failing? What are they failing? Is it specific classes? And what can we do to adjust the service delivery model to that student? So the Academy is specialeducationacademy.com.
Yeah.
It's also in
Kelly
the thing
said,
of the deal, and you could swipe it in the swipe area.
It's a link tree, ma'am.
It's a link tree. There's a tree, and it has linkage.
There's a tree with linkage.
There's link. It's like a chain linkage tree. Sorry.
So, our remote services...
Kelly's asked 3 times, and I told her I was going to ask next. Okay, you just sit there and be quiet, Christine. 1 second. Kelly has an IEP meeting tomorrow at the elementary school for not feeding her tube-fed kid for 2 weeks. What are her rights?
So her rights are about the IEP document. First of all, respectfully, was that in the IEP document? A lot of times we have stuff that is agreed upon. We never documented it. I just finished a prep for a client, and her son receives full-time nursing. It's nowhere in the document. So the IEP meeting's about the components of the IEP document. So that sounds like an administration issue to me and a staffing issue. But I would first say who is going to rectify this going forward. And then if she needed representation to address what's happened in the past, then she would probably need representation. If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay, Christina, you can go ahead now.
All right.
The token cheese person is a middle school teacher. We knew that.
We love her.
We love her.
Her IEPs are not dying. They're thriving there.
Yes, the academy does teach you how to file for retaliation of your civil rights. I just got a case open. The OCR opened it for race, retaliation, and disability.
Boom. All right, Christina, go ahead.
All right. Are remote services our favorite? Are remote services the same as direct services?
So there have been some cases that have gone to court over remote services. The problem is, what did you agree to? So virtual, a remote plan, like if the world shuts down again, is not codified. So I don't know why people agree to that. They just were lied to and they agree to that. There are some parents who've agreed to bring their kids home and do school online. When you do that, you're going to give up your rights to an IEP. An IEP is for the instructional day. It is to be delivered by school-based members. I can't be in your house IEPing you, right? But there's new case law that's come out for parents that agreed to go to school at home. So remember, what you agreed to is what you agreed to. So I agreed to the IEP being implemented with fidelity for 375 minutes a day, 400 minutes a day, as we agreed upon.
Perfect. Son has an IEP for behaviors. Can the school make me send him to a therapeutic school?
So when I hear you say make me send him to a therapeutic school, I think your question is, do I have to agree to an out-of-district placement for behavior that's therapeutic? I have kids that are on out-of-district placement, and it's been a gift. The level of their behavior dysregulation cannot be served by public school teachers, right? So public school has its limitations. They're not a hospital. They're not psychiatrists. They're not, there to help you if you are struggling with your identity. That's not what school is built to do, right? And I know this teachers are amazing and we love on our kiddos and we do all that we can do, but it has limitations. So certainly if the school is considering an out-of-district placement with a therapeutic model, I would want them to describe that in totality. And certainly the parents would have to have, visit it to see what it looks like.
Perfect. How do I legally ask for records from the teacher who's threatened to fail my son?
So I would email her and say, please stop threatening to fail my son. And I would let her know Friday, I'll be picking up my child's records. Do you want me to bring you a zip drive, a floppy board, or whatever people use, right? But I would just let her know I'll be picking up my records Friday. Do you need me to, are you going to make copies or will you provide that to me electronically? So you have a legal right, it's a procedural right that you have the right to examine and review your child's educational records.
Perfect. What do I do about accommodations if the teacher isn't aware of them?
Well, are these trick questions? So I would say, hey, I wanted to give you a copy of my child's accommodation. I didn't know if you had a copy of them. And then based on what she says, you might do something different.
Perfect. How to best advocate for a kiddo who are very gifted academically but are very behind socially?
So, you advocate for them by seeing if there's an educational need. So I have kiddos that are twice exceptional. I have kiddos that are in gifted programs, and they have an IEP because they are struggling emotionally. And yes, you can get all of your past records. So if my kid's a 10th grader and he's been in school since he was 5, I can get all of their records.
And just let everybody know, there was 100 comments under where I'm reading, so I promise I'm trying to get to where you're at. Can a parent request to not have a certain person in their IEP meeting?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Now, you can certainly say, now, I've had people that were not lovely like I am. And like, let's say that Christina was a diagnostician and she had a severe case of the snarkisms. And every time she talked, I had a diagnostician one time, she was huffing the whole time. I didn't know if she needed like a breathing treatment. So I didn't know if she was like in a stall somewhere. She was like, every time we asked for something. So I said, that's a lot of huffing while you're typing. So I said at the next meeting, I would prefer a different diagnostician in that role. So that diagnostician still showed up, but somebody else in her same role did her job. So I can't say I need her to go away, but she was unsuccessful at being collaborative. Yeah, she needed a breathing treatment. Plus, she had on walking shorts. Can we talk about that? What are we wearing walking shorts for? Anyway.
So that feeds into another question. Who should be involved in the IEP meeting?
So the 5 stakeholders are the parent, the local education agency representative, which is usually a principal, maybe a counselor if they have certification, and then, of course, the general education teacher, special education teacher, and somebody that understands and can interpret and administer assessments and answer questions about them. And then anybody else who has knowledge about the student. Yes, I assist directly in IEP meetings.
I keep getting told my son's IEP accommodations can't be met due to the budget or lack of staffing.
I would ask for that in writing. Yeah, those things don't come in writing.
Yes. That camper family, is not me at all, I'm going to stay in my house, says, the district says exposure, quote unquote, exposure to grade 8 math is priority for consumer math, which is more appropriate. What are your thoughts?
So I don't know about exposure. Some is taught, some is caught, right? We're always looking at what? Meaningful benefit and harmful effect. Meaningful benefit and harmful effect. So is there a meaningful benefit in him sitting in grade level 8th grade math? I know there wouldn't be any for me, right? So we're always balancing meaningful benefit and harmful effect. So what is the benefit? What is the benefit of him being in grade level math? I don't know. The only math that I know is tall, grande, and vente. So that's the question that you have across content areas for kids with disabilities.
The daughter has an IEP to be pulled for an hour to sped room, and they haven't done it all year.
So she would owe me some compensatory time. The district owes me compensatory time.
Yes. Someone said, thank you for advocating and teaching. We need more people like you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so somebody asked, so we're always balancing meaningful benefit and harmful effect, and they're both always in play in special education. So the website, specialeducationacademy.com, the email to contact any of us is admin@specialeducationacademy.com.
Yes. Can services be given if you change to homeschooling?
Homeschooling is not an educational product. So if you want special ed services and you choose to unenroll your child in the district, they don't have any legal requirement to provide any special ed services to your student. It's certainly your option, right? But there's no legal requirement for that.
Someone wants to know, can she get her daughter an IEP if she has major depression, PTSD, and ADHD?
So you can get your child an IEP if they have an educational need at school.
My child has an IEP and 504, but a class she doesn't have an IEP teacher and she's failing.
I don't know how you would have an IEP and a 504. So if you have an IEP, the 504 is absorbed into the IEP because it's just in the accommodations page. But if part of her education team is not showing up, then you would document that and ask for compensatory time.
Lauren asked, if we sign up for the Academy today, can we view the past trainings like the 7G training?
Yes. If you sign up today, you can spend hours with me. Yeah. They're all on there.
Yes. Student is 12 in 7th grade with ADHD and a 504. The teacher advice is he needs to try harder.
Wow. You know what? I feel like we just posted that on Twitter. Just try harder. I didn't know trying Not trying was a disability. Try harder. Okay, that's actually embarrassing that somebody would say that. Talk about a bias. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a way to enforce different teaching methods if I don't feel like the ed teachers are helping?
So, how teachers deliver their educational product is at their discretion, right? Otherwise, we would have a bunch of robots. And I think that that's important. Unless they're committing a crime, teachers teach differently.
Yes. My daughter has an IEP and the school wanted her to repeat a grade. How is this possible?
Anything's possible. It's very rare that you would want a school would want you to repeat a grade. That would be a gift from me. But you could have kiddos on an IEP that retention's on the table.
Does your academy teach how to file? Oh, you already answered that. Sorry.
Yes, it does. Teach how to file.
Yeah.
Fingernails, toenails.
All the things. How can an uncredentialed teacher have a SPED class?
Because they haven't been reported onto the state that they work in.
Yes. Why are so many services getting dropped, like speech in middle school?
Because parents don't know that they can keep them. And it's just a model that we've taught, right? We give speech twice a week in elementary school, once every other week in middle school, and then, you're probably talking up a storm in high school. Right?
Yeah. One parent said they have a 1-to-1 aide per the IEP, but it's been over a year and they claim they can't find one. What can I do?
What I can do is I can ask for compensatory time to mitigate the impact of you denying the student FAPE. And I would ask for that in private tutoring, special ed certified teacher to be delivered over probably 24 or 36 months.
Yes. Teacher, mom, puppy love. That's all her name.
Oh.
She said there needs to be more training on a prior written notice. It makes me nervous as an EC teacher.
Thank you for being nervous. Don't be nervous. Thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate it.
Red Champ wants to know if you know anything about 504s. Her daughter has ADHD and anxiety, and she's failing class right now.
I know a ton about 504s, but a 504 is a civil rights law. Have your civil rights been violated? So you can get accommodations, but depending on the acuity of their disability, they might need counseling as a related service. They might need support during the general ed class time. So if you think that your child needs to be taught a skill and for us to track data on that, then you need an IEP.
Lisa Sparks said she was invited to an IEP meeting by the mom and all the comments, concerns were omitted from the IEP minutes. Is this legal?
So it's not illegal, right? A hearing officer told me one time that lots of things are wrong, but they're not illegal. So when you get those deliberations back, then I would just say, we're going to send you our written response to the school-based members' deliberations, and we want that attached to their cumulative folder.
Someone wants to know, when do you go live? Your days and times.
I'm live every day of my life, but there was no need for that, was there? Sorry. When do I go live? I go live at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Tuesdays, and then the academy is at 8 p.m.
Yes. My IEP student is failing and suspended weekly over behaviors that are listed in his IEP. What can I do?
If that was a client that I was advocating for, I would call it MDR. I would call a manifestation determination resolution meeting. You can do that. And I would ask, what the Hello Kitty is going on in here? If he's being suspended, what can we do to support him in a way that that's not the outcome?
Can I get certified if I take the academy course?
You can get bona fide. Yeah. So let me just tell you about certifications. Certifications mean what? I don't mean anything, right? We teach you to be ridiculously amazing. So yes, you get a certificate at the end, but there's no certification to be an advocate. But yes, certifications are available for all persons that complete the content.
Brinks lifts, which means she works out, I guess. She has 85 students.
I like how you just...
She works out.
She works.
Anyway, 65 of them are on IEPs. 10 of them failed for doing nothing. That can happen.
Tell me the question.
That was it. That was just a statement, I guess.
Yeah.
My son is about to get kicked out of day treatment. Can they do that?
Like daycare? Yeah. So daycares are not public schools. They're not public colleges. They're not charter schools. So they are not bound by the laws as it relates to special education in school.
Yes. Can a ninth grader not be allowed sports because he's failing ELA due to his disability?
Unless you've put in the documentation, we just talked about this in a training the other night. If your child is in extracurricular activities governed by UIL, Universal Interscholastic League, I would put a provision in the IEP document, and which you could actually put it in even a 504, is that the no pass, no play provision is doesn't apply to him as long as he makes progress on his IEP goals.
Someone says, how do you say retention is on the table for the IEP, but also say an IEP kid can't have failing grades?
So retention is not about failing, right? Retention is about did the student meet the expectations and acquisition of the content for this year? So respectfully, I don't believe in anybody's grades. If your kid's a valedictorian, I'm not sure that they are. And if your kid's the last person in school, I don't know if they are. Grades are crazy now, right? Everybody has an A. So I have kiddos that have had all good grades, and we decided that it was best for them to be retained in kindergarten or first grade just because they were missing so many of those foundational points. Has nothing to do with grades. I think grades are shenanigans.
Yes. Do foster parents have any rights in attending or sharing in IEP meetings?
Yes, they're unfortunately very limited, and that's going to be in the documents as a mediator for the family courts. You want to make sure that you've read that document pristinely, whether it's a divorce decree or custody or canceling of parental rights. There will be content area in that document that indicates who has legal rights to make educational decisions.
Yes.
Are we going to let other friends ask questions, or?
I was waiting.
Christina's crying in the corner. She's just over there rocking, going, "Pick me, love me." Christina, I'm gonna let you ask one question, ma'am, and can you make it with feeling?
I can. Oh, this is a fun one. You love these.
Okay.
Somebody would like to know, do you have to go through all of the tier processes in order if your child is already diagnosed with a disability or you want them to have testing?
No, there's no requirement for anything for testing. So testing is what the federal law says. The federal law says that we test children who have suspected disabilities. So if you already have an identified disability, we've passed that threshold. We get into meetings with administrators or people that, listen, Christina, can you park your car? Just come on in. And we get what Bonnie talked about. We're going to keep an eye on him. He's doing great. We love your kid. I don't even know what that means. Stop loving my kid, right? But here's what you're not going to get back. Time. You're not going to get back time. And the biggest things that my clients have is regret, which is horrible because there's nothing you can do about it, because they believe somebody in the educational profession with probably a good heart who really thought it'd be okay if we kept an eye on them. So, if you have a suspected disability or identified disability, I would ask for special education testing.
Another question was, what do you do if you have a student who is transferring mid-year and has an IEP for ADHD?
So what do I do? So if I'm the incoming school, I implement the IEP. The incoming school has 30 days to do new testing if they think it's applicable and make any adjustments on the document. But the incoming school has to receive that document and deliver it with fidelity and match services in as much as is possible.
Your multi-guest option came back.
Oh, it is. You can be multified again. Oh. Multified, is that a word?
I didn't know I wasn't multified.
Speaking of multiples, someone asked, a student have multiple SLD diagnoses?
Yeah, I had a kid the other day that was tested and she had 6 SLDs out of the 9. So SLD is the eligibility. The 9 are areas of SLD.
Yes. What do you do as a staff member if LRE isn't discussed at an IEP meeting?
Keep your mouth shut. Because if you open your mouth, it's not going to go well. If you're at a school district where it's not discussed, that's not a whoops, right? It's been my experience just from the teachers that I have the honor and blessing to train that is a good way to get your hand slapped. And yes, I advocate in all, I don't know how many states we have, but I advocate in all states. I used to guess how many states I have, but then we got into a time change conversation, so I won't be doing that.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Christina.
No, I was going to say, just coming off of what you were just talking about, someone else just commented, my district told me to stop referring kids because they didn't have time to test them.
Oh, that sounds so legal. Just stop. I mean, if you don't have time, I mean, it's just going to keep them out of prison. It's going to keep them, unemployed. Yeah, that sounds fair. Yeah.
Darlene said, her nonverbal autistic child cries a lot during the school time. Can something be added to her IEP about that?
Sure. So, I would ask for an FBA, functional behavior assessment, right? I also ask for a district assist, that I have somebody from the district level come in and do that FBA, because it's just a new set of eyes to give directives, and it's usually very efficient to do it that way.
Yes. Someone said, how do I find the different types of SLDs?
So I'll tell you the different types of SLDs. So there are 4 in reading: dyslexia, basic reading, reading fluency, and reading comprehension. In math, reading computation and math computation and math problem solving. Writing, written expression, and there's also listening, comprehension, and oral expression.
Someone said she doesn't appreciate the comment about it being the teacher's fault if the student fails.
Who said it was the teacher's fault if the student fails?
I don't know.
What I said was well, let's address that. I don't know what it means to not appreciate it, but it's my experience and all the families that I serve that kiddos with an IEP, when we make the correct adjustments, whether it's services, supports, sometimes change of placement, sometimes additional testing, that they cannot learn and be successful. I see too many schools do what they do, and we did our best. And the truth is, there were other things that we could have done. So I didn't say it was the teacher's fault. I said it is operator error, right? That somebody on that team, whether it was the principal, the testing professionals, the behavior specialist, somebody could have come in and helped make adjustments.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Who should I get to do the test for the school? Who should I get to do the test, the school or a separate psychologist?
Well, ultimately, the school is going to have to do the testing. There's no need for you to go spend money on your own testing. So I asked for the full testing from the school district.
We have another one. What's the difference between a 504 and an IEP?
So a 504, I wouldn't recommend that any human on the earth get a 504 with your child because you already have an identified disability. I would always do the testing. Testing does one of 2 things. It identifies or eliminates. And so do the full testing. If I'm wrong and you need a 504, great. I'm happy to be wrong. But I've served thousands and thousands and thousands of kids, and I can think of 1 child, maybe 2, that a 504 was appropriate for them.
I like how this one said, hold up. Wait, you can have an IEP for ADHD? I had to fight for 4 years just for a 504.
Of course you can have an IEP for ADHD. You can have an IEP for diabetes. You can have an IEP for an identified educational need.
So someone asked, do you cover Vermont?
I cover all of Vermont. The top, the middle, all the Vermontans. Yeah. And thank you finally for combing your hair. That's been bothering me the whole time.
You're welcome. Can you talk about IEE and disagreeing with the FBA or the BIP?
Okay, so disagreeing with any of the testing, you can request an IEE, an individualized education evaluation at the expense of the district by an agreed upon provider.
Melissa said the IEP was only discussed with the principal. Is that okay?
That's odd. So we discussed the IEP with the entire team. And then I'm going to take 5/7 more questions.
Okay, well, I'm going to scroll down because there's 100 comments underneath
Okay.
me.
Scroll.
I just passed up 100 of you guys. So
sorry, she doesn't mean it.
Someone asked if you covered Texas.
The whole thing, all 605,000 students in Texas have an IEP. I know them all individually.
Jessica said, me, please. Jessica, what's your question, ma'am?
That's right. Let's hear it.
Can a daughter with an IEP be ineligible for cheerleading because of grades?
I don't know. So it depends on, I don't know what the qualifications are for cheerleading. I put my hands up, but I don't cheer. That's a lot of polyester. Yeah. So not that I know of, but what do I know?
Someone asked, how do you switch?
5 students in Texas with an IEP.
What?
Someone said only 605 students in Texas with an IEP.
605,000 students in Texas have an IEP, which means probably 4 billion have a 504. Because in Texas, we're in last place for IEPs, but we're in first place for 504s. Let us give ourselves a round of applause, shall we? Yes.
Okay, lots of people are asking, when is your next in-person training? How do they get your trainings? How do they get in contact with you?
So the next 2-day is this weekend, the 3rd and 4th in December. And the one after that, which is the only 2 scheduled, is the 14th and 15th of January, the Saturday and Sunday for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And we have a 2-day on-demand class that you can always take. You would reach me the same way anybody reaches me, by mailing me salt and pepper shakers. That's how you reach me. But you would email us at admin@specialeducationacademy.com. We have a team of affiliates that we have trained to be amazing advocates as well. Token Cheese is coming in January. Y'all clap. Yay! Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, Jessica, I found you. All right. It says AL, that's Alabama. Department of Education made a new code for no accommodations for career tech discrimination, ?
Last day to register for the in-person would be Wednesday if you're coming this week. I'm not sure. Accommodations are not limited by content area, so that sounds like shenanigans. I would have to read the statute. Sometimes we read part of the statute and go, here it is. We take it out of context, like my video. Wait, I think Bonnie has a question. She's finished combing.
Go, Bonnie.
She's finished combing her hair.
Bonnie's shaking her head like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was Christina that had a question.
Somebody said how many due process cases I've won. Let's just answer that question. So last year in 2021, I filed 29 due process cases. I settled 22. We're going to call those wins. Last year in Texas, there were only 2 wins for parents. One case was an IEE. The parent won an IEE, which I thought that was odd that you would go to due process over a $1,500 product. In the other case, I won. And so this year, I've already settled 2, and we've won 1. Winning.
All right. There's a bunch of people asking for their state. Nevada.
Yes, New Jersey. We love the New Jerseyans. We love the New Jerseyans. We love a walk-up.
Arizona. All of them.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take these 3 because they asked 4 times. Are you ready?
Yes.
Can you go back to the diploma track once they put you on a certificate track?
That's not a thing. I think that y'all been given shenanigans. Hey, South Dakota, Illinois, yep. Hawaii. We would love to come do a training in Hawaii. Cute coconut. We're available for that. There's no such thing as a sort of, I think you guys have just been given bunk. I want you to email compliance for your state and say, is this true? And where is it in the code? Is this true? And where is it in the code? If it's in the code, they'll send it to you, even if you're in Indiana, right? If it's not in the code, they'll say, that's not in the code. Okay?
Yeah. There was one about an autistic child.
Oh. Yeah, you found it?
Yes. Nonverbal autistic child being refused a one-to-one after data was collected because of improvement after one was put in place. What can she do?
So then I would say we might agree to a reduction of support, but let's talk about those areas that she still has support. It's not an all or nothing. You have to be able to make adjustments. We provide that support as needed between bell to bell and sometimes bus to bus. So I'm going to take, yes, sped text. They are awesome. Inquire at spedtext.org. So, oh, Bonnie just said that. Well, thank you, Bonnie.
Look at her. We've had these two questions like 100 times. So you want to take these last two?
Yes, last two.
Okay. Thoughts on federal setting 4?
I don't even know what that means, but I keep saying it.
But that's what they keep saying.
I don't know what that means.
And then the other one was, how do you change from a 504 to an IEP?
You get testing for special education. So you write an email. Dear school, this is my formal request for ability to have testing for special education. Areas of suspected disability are attention, behavior, learning, and or communication needs. We look forward to coming in and signing notice and consent in 15 days. And then hit send. That's how you do it.
A lot of people are asking. Go ahead, Christina.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of people are asking, what are your prices? How do they retain you? So
I am free with payment. I am free with payment. So it depends on what it is that you need. But if you're interested in services, we can send you opening documents.
Then someone else wanted to share, thank you for coming on live, and they love how spicy you are today.
I'm spicy every day.
Every day.
Every day, every day. Yeah. So we're happy to have these conversations. We're happy to go on with other people. We need to have the conversations. We're not two sets of people. We're not different sides of the table. Yes, Georgia. Yes, California. We're in every state. So, what we need to do is fund teaching. We need to fund special education. And we need to be honest with parents at an IEP table. If we did that, 99% of this would be fixed. So.
Yeah. And then I guess just finish it off talking about the academy and the trainings, because people are asking about the different
So
trainings.
the academy is every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Central, and it is ridiculously fun. You guys learn so much. And we have over 200 hours of content that's archived there with workbooks. We go through series. Also, we have 2-day in-person trainings. Day 1, you'll learn how to be an advocate. And day 2, you'll learn how to be an advocate as a living. Somebody asked if I'm single. Do you think somebody that looks this good? Yeah, I get one husband after another. I just keep them coming, right? So we have 2-day trainings in person, and then we have it on demand online. And then in January, we'll start a new 10-week mastermind. And then we have lots of a la carte classes that you can take online. So come join the academy.
It's in her bio.
Or on the link tree of the bio. And I don't need another husband. Really, I'm full on husbands. Yep, you can still attend the training. The training's for everybody. Over 2/3 of the people that take any of our trainings are school-based members. Yep, school-based members. Because you know what training they got at school? It rhymes with nothing. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you all. Thank you.
All of the trainings are linked in her bio.
Crafty cat.
Knows how to find them. They're linked in the bio.
Look, the token cheesehead. She makes so many things with her deal. It's just, she's going to be doing a breakout session at the 2-day in January. How to make your emojis exciting. Okay. Thanks for jumping on, you guys. We'll see you Tuesday night. What if your husband doesn't know? Oh, he'll know.
Get truck tiger.
He'll know. Yes, he'll know.
We're on this live.
Yes. Everybody knows now.
Everybody knows, yeah. I'm sort of a one husband at a time kind of gal. I'm not on that TV show from where. So, love you guys. If you need something, let us know. Remember, if we get it right for the child, we get it right for everybody. We want to get it right for everybody. We'll see you in the next training.